Israeli leaders have a new message tonight. Troops will stay in southern Lebanon. Not just for days. Not for weeks. Indefinitely. And they promise a heavy price after 4 soldiers were killed. This is not what the ceasefire was supposed to look like.
Here is what happened. On Friday, 4 Israeli soldiers were killed in southern Lebanon. Among them was a battalion commander, a senior officer. The Israeli military confirmed the deaths. This is the heaviest single-day loss for Israel inside Lebanon since the war began.
Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu responded immediately. In a social media statement, he said Israel will remain in Lebanon as long as necessary. He promised to make Hezbollah pay a heavy price for the attacks. But here is what most headlines skip: this was not a Hezbollah offensive. Reports indicate the Israeli soldiers were killed during ongoing military operations inside Lebanese territory.
Defense Minister Israel Katz went further. He said troops will stay in a so-called security zone in southern Lebanon, from the coastline to the heights of Beaufort. He warned that any ceasefire violation by Hezbollah will be met with great force. But the ceasefire itself is only days old. It was signed on Thursday.
Here is the tension in their own words. Israel calls this a security zone, but Lebanon calls it occupied territory. The United Nations has long demanded Israel withdraw from all Lebanese land. Now Israeli officials are openly saying troops will stay indefinitely. That is a direct challenge to the ceasefire deal. This is not the first time Israel has done this. In 2006, Israel invaded southern Lebanon after a Hezbollah cross-border raid. The war lasted 34 days. Israel's stated goal was to destroy Hezbollah. It did not succeed. Israeli troops occupied parts of southern Lebanon for months before withdrawing under UN Resolution 1701. That resolution was supposed to prevent exactly what is happening now. But here is what is different this time. Israel is not just responding to a single attack. It is claiming a permanent security zone inside another country. Defense Minister Katz specifically said the zone extends from the coast to the Beaufort Heights. That is strategic high ground overlooking northern Israel. Israel wants to hold it indefinitely. What this means for Hezbollah is clear. The group has always justified its armed presence as resistance to Israeli occupation. Now Israel is openly saying it will occupy southern Lebanon again. That gives Hezbollah a powerful narrative. And it makes any ceasefire extremely fragile. Both sides are now in a cycle that looks very familiar. There is also a question of international law. Under the UN Charter, one country cannot send troops into another without that government's consent. Lebanon's government did not agree to this. The UN Security Council has resolutions demanding Israeli withdrawal. But those resolutions have not been enforced. And now Israel is expanding its footprint. Let us look at what is at stake for Lebanon. Southern Lebanon is already one of the most fragile regions in the country. Villages were heavily damaged in previous fighting. Thousands of civilians have been displaced. If Israeli troops stay indefinitely, those civilians cannot return home. And Lebanon's government cannot rebuild. The economic cost is massive.
Now consider the regional picture. Iran backs Hezbollah. Any major escalation in southern Lebanon risks drawing Iran in. Israel knows this. The United States knows this. But the current Israeli government is under domestic political pressure. Netanyahu's coalition partners are far right. They want a tough military posture. That makes diplomacy very difficult. There is another layer to this story. The ceasefire was signed on Thursday. By Friday, 4 soldiers were dead and ministers were promising indefinite occupation. That raises serious questions about how serious Israel ever was about the deal. Some analysts say the ceasefire was always meant to be temporary, a way to reset the battlefield on Israel's terms.
What happens next depends on one question. Will Hezbollah respond militarily to the Israeli troop presence? If it does, we are looking at a full-scale war. If it does not, it risks losing credibility with its own base. Either way, the situation is escalating. And the heavy price Netanyahu promised could be paid by civilians on both sides. For Muslim world, this is a test. Israel is openly occupying Arab land again. UN resolutions are being ignored. And the international community is not acting. Pakistan has consistently called for respect of Lebanese sovereignty. But words alone have not stopped Israeli tanks before. The question now is whether diplomacy can catch up with events on the ground. We will be watching closely for what Hezbollah does next. Whether the United Nations steps in. And whether Israel's security zone becomes a permanent occupation. One thing is already clear. The ceasefire signed on Thursday is now in serious doubt. And the people who will pay the heaviest price are the civilians caught in the middle. Stay with Frontline Watch.
Like the report, subscribe for more, and share the story.